The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is the X Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network. Our toll-free number is 1-877-528-8255. That's toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. My email address is xzone@talkstarradio.com. On MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com. And our websites, www.xzoneradio.com and xzonetv.com. My guest this hour is Pastor Harry Walther. We've had the pleasure of having the pastor on with the debate with David Dwayne Boyce and Patrick Cook. And Pastor Walther also has some new Bible code revelations that he'd like to share with us. But first of all, Pastor, what was your opinion of David Dwayne Boyce and his claim that he was Jesus Christ?
My opinion was, not only was he totally false according to everything the Bible says about the second coming of Jesus or Christ, but the person was totally false of just as being a person. I mean, that, you know, when you ask a person a yes or no direct question and they can't answer a direct question over and over and over, you know they're hiding things.
Well, I still say he would have made a better hockey player because he did a lot of skating that night.
Yeah, well, that's very true. And I like what you did with the show, because you changed format and you would let somebody ask a question and then you would mute that person and you would let him answer. And you would let, like, me answer back or Peter, and that way he couldn't talk over or interrupt people. But it was just what I realized. I was just listening to him, and I was just, after the show, I realized what the person did. He starts with a geographic location where he lived, and from that location he fabricates a code. He'll take different verses in the Bible to add up to that longitude and latitude. Like, he'll take John 10:42. So you have the number 42, and he'll add 42 to something else, and then on a latitude, then he'll try to twist 666 somehow into this mathematical equation, and then he says it's a secret code, and then he just used that to present his agenda. And as he went on and on and on, you just saw that he's promoting just a type of a New Age agenda. But I mean, the person was ridiculous when I said Jesus would have the Bible's clear that Jesus returns with the physical wounds in his hands and his sides, aside from a spear going through it and from 9-inch spikes going through his ankles. And he said, well, he has weak ankles and emphysema. Yeah, it was just a total joke. If I said Jesus had thorns hammered through his head, he probably would have said he has dandruff.
Yeah, it was a I couldn't follow him, to be honest with you. He was giving biblical references, and I have my Bible here. I'm going through it, and I'm saying, well, what's this got to do with what you're saying?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, I think your listeners were just they were as lost as we were. But I don't think that person's going to have much of a following.
Well, you know what, Pastor? In the Bible it says that near the end there will be plenty of false prophets, doesn't it?
False Christ, false prophets, and I'd say that's the only thing he was biblically, Rob. He fulfilled that prophecy. He's one of the false Christs that would come, so that's the only place he really did make any sense.
Pastor, please stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes when we'll be discussing some of the newest discoveries that you've made in the Bible Code. Pastor Harry Walther is our special guest, and the good pastor and I return on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. In the next hour, Exonation, X-1 old-time radio at its very best. I'll be back on the other side of this break in 2 minutes with Pastor Harry right here on Talkstar. Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine like hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits, and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining room can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, old Florida cuisine at its best. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
This is Johanna Carroll, host of Dialogue with Divinity on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. While walking along Kaanapali Beach in Maui this past year, I kept discovering all these shells and coral in the shape of hearts. My dialogue with Divinity was very simple. Do you want me to do a retreat to heal people's hearts in Maui next year? And of course, the answer was yes. As a master spiritual teacher, I am offering you a neat retreat called Rise, May 8th through the 12th, 2017, and the chance of a lifetime to rest at a 5-star resort for 5 days and experience a spiritual renewal of your heart and soul. Kaanapali is one of the top 5 beaches in the world. This stunning resort has undergone a $40 million renovation. I walked the entire property, checked out the room choices on your behalf, and I must say it is stunning. Our conference room faces the ocean with sliding glass doors. Maui is known as Mother Maui because it is a soft, gentle, healing energy. In the embrace of Mother Maui, you will feel yourself rising from the limitations of an ordinary life to an extraordinary journey of peace, bliss, and harmony. A greater sense of clarity. Our Rise retreat ignites renewal in the sacred elements of air, water, earth, fire, and wind. There's plenty of free time to enjoy all that Maui has to offer. A small deposit is required now to reserve your space, as this retreat, it will sell out. For more details, please go to johannacarroll.com and register today. Aloha, and I'll see you in mystical Maui.
Pastor Harry's my special guest, www.satansrapture.com. Pastor, what new information have you discovered using the Bible code that pertains to the events in the very near future?
Well, I'm going to get to that, but could I do a quick recap on how accurate the Bible code has been for this year?
Oh, certainly, yeah.
It's truly amazing, because I would want to say that the year coming up in Hebrew, 5770, which is the equivalent of 2010 in our calendar. In the Hebrew calendar, 5770 starts September 19th, because the ancient Hebrew calendar is about 3.5 months ahead of ours. That is the most encoded year in the entire Bible code, for war and destruction and disaster and the Antichrist. And before we get into that, I just want to show people, how accurate the Bible code was for this specific year. Back in October 2008, with the election going on with Obama, I started to, do Bible codes.
Mm-hmm.
And hold on one second. And I looked at the election, and here's exactly what it said in the Bible code. It said Barack Obama president, and it said Joe Biden was second or chosen VP or vice president. And then it said McCain not president, and then it said Sarah Palin selected VP second. So it was telling us the exact winner and loser of this year's election. Mm-hmm. And we all know how accurate that was. And, Obama picked Joe Biden as his vice president. McCain did not win and picked Sarah Palin and his running mate. And then the code then goes into the year 2009. There was an assassination attempt on Obama back in October of 2008, and it warned about white supremacists and a sniper. And the FBI stopped an assassination attempt in October of last year, and there was 2 white supremacists, and they had a high-powered sniper rifle. And then we get into 2009 with Obama as president, and the first thing the code tells us then that Benjamin Netanyahu would win as the prime minister of Israel. And he is the doomsday president. In many, many Bible codes, he's the president of Israel when they fight World War III, when all hell is going to break loose in the Mideast. And and Obama and Netanyahu started to hit heads. They're ramming heads together. Obama is totally against Israel and Netanyahu, and Obama broke every campaign promise he made because he's become very against Israel, very one-sided. He's trying to force this ridiculous two-state solution upon Israel that's totally fair and unjust and would be their destruction. And the Bible code warns of Obama. It says Obama, Israel, curse. And it's a direct reference to the ancient curse in Genesis 12, where God said he would bless the nations that bless Israel and curse the nations that curse Israel. And the next thing, swine flu started. Mm-hmm. And the Bible code calls it swine plague. And it's very clear about swine flu. And it's clear it calls Obama an evildoer and evil and delay. And we all know what happened. Obama actually did worse than delay. He did nothing. And he allowed swine flu to go from, in April when they first announced the Mexican outbreak, Obama allowed swine flu to go from being in 5 or 6 states in America with 11 cases to now it's in all 50 states. It's over 40,000 cases and over, I think it's 353 deaths. Mm-hmm. And now they're telling us it's going to mutate, and it's the same virus as 1918 that killed 60 million people.
Well, I think that the general state of health is a lot stronger than it was going back to 1918, Pastor. I think that the medical community is going to be ready to fight the swine flu. And as we were talking with Dr. Doyle in the first hour, it's going to be with the roll of the dice.
Well, that's true. But see, I'm saying the Bible code is telling us the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it also mentions something horrific, the swine flu. But first of all, I want to say, you're in Canada. The Bible code says that swine flu is predominantly going to devastate the United States. It doesn't seem to mention any other nations that is really going to get, totaled by this. And there's some truth to that already, because right now in Australia, it's their winter. They're having flu season, and so far swine flu has been relatively mild compared to what they thought it could be. But now in this country, in Florida, they're expecting a minimum of 5 million cases in the Miami-Dade County area alone. And, But swine flu does seem, in the code, says the worst-case scenario, and that it could somehow mutate with rabies into this airborne, like killer plague, like a Dawn of the Dead type scenario. So the Bible code warns very bad things for swine flu in America for this year. And it also, in the Bible code, I saw that Obama, last week, the Secretary of Defense signed an executive order to use the United States military right into this country in case of social disorder, disarray, to maintain order and to enforce quarantines. And they've already have a plan. They divided this country into 5 regions. So it looks like our government has a plan for a possible martial law type scenario. And the Bible code says with Obama, it actually says FEMA and martial law. And FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency, where they have the shadow government, which would actually become the new government. And that's in the Bible code as well. And then, something happened after I found the swine flu thing, about American Idol. I was on your show that day it happened.
Yeah.
Before my American Idol, before the winner was announced that morning, I went to the Bible code, and it actually said Chris Allen Idol winner, Adam Lambert Idol loss. And amazingly, the code came true on that. And I think it's to show us that the other things are going to come true too. It wasn't just, I don't think God showed us the American Idol winner just as an isolated event. And then what happened as we move forward, an event happened that some people think is ridiculous that it would be encoded, but I think it's very important. There was an incident, I don't know if you remember this, Rob, where Barack Obama was on television, and he was giving a speech, an interview on ABC News, and there was a fly. I don't know if you remember that, and there was a fly buzzing around, and Obama killed the fly. And not only did he kill a fly, which in itself means nothing, but he seemed so happy with himself, and he kept pointing down at the fly, and the camera zoomed in on the dead fly, and Obama seemed like so delighted. Yeah, I went to the Bible code. It's amazingly enough, in the Barack Obama code, in the Bible code, it actually said ABC, which was where he was on, it said killed, fly, delighted, pleased with himself. Now, that incident was kind of weird because it made him look very bad, and that was in the Bible code. It was amazing, but it was right there in a tiny little matrix, like about as big as a matchbox. And then what happened, the next code that I found, I was talking about in your program, was I found on July 30th of this year, Barack Obama was encoded to have a serious accident. And the code actually said Stairway AF1 or Air Force One, that he was going to fall on top of the stairway and break his arm and his leg, or his arm and both legs. He was going to have a horrific fall. And when I did more code research, I actually found the word sniper going right through accident on July 30th. And then we sent this code out everywhere, and it went out to a lot of news agencies a week before the fact. And it seemed that, somebody with a high-powered rifle could have fired a few shots at him. And even if they missed, which the code seems to say they would, he would have been startled and fell, and he would have fell down the steps. And so what happened was on the week of July 30th, that was a Thursday, the day he was supposed to have his accident on the 9th of Av. In Hebrew, what happened was Obama was going out every day, on Air Force One, on these town hall meetings. He's trying to push this socialist, it's almost a Nazistic healthcare plan upon this country. And he was going to all these town hall meetings trying to convince people how America needs this total socialistic system, why we need this massive overhaul, which we really don't.
So all this was in the Bible code?
Yes. And then what happened was, on Wednesday, was July 29th, Obama's on Air Force One. He is going all over the place, Rob. And then on Wednesday the 29th, he flew to North Carolina and then Virginia. A double stop, just, these town hall meetings, like just pushing this health care plan on people and lying in every statement he makes. And then suddenly they announced he's not going anywhere on July 30th. He's going to have that beer sit down with that white policeman and that racist black college professor. Remember, there was that confrontation at the professor's house
in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Right, and Obama had said that the police acted stupidly when he didn't even know the facts.
Yeah.
And of all days, suddenly he stops his entire this massive traveling tour, to push the healthcare. But suddenly he's not going anywhere Thursday, and they had the beer summit on Thursday, the very day when the code would be warning them, don't get on a plane, stay off of Air Force One. And then the next day he was out flying again. So it kind of, I believe Obama saw that code and didn't want to tempt fate, so to speak. I think he respected the code enough to not have flown that day.
1-877-528-8255 is toll free. Pastor Harry is our special guest. Pastor, the fact that nothing happened to President Obama on the 30th as told about in the Bible Code, how do we justify this as the Bible Code still being right?
Well, because people have an idea that the Bible Code is like prophecy fixed in stone, and that every code you find has to happen. But that isn't true at all. A lot of codes, like assassinations and terror attacks, can be prevented, and they're encoded to be prevented. But and I believe Obama's alive now because he did not fly on that day, and that's one of those things where people can believe it, or they cannot believe it. But it seems too coincidental to me, not to believe.
All right, Pastor, stand by. You and I have to take our news at the bottom of the hour. X-Zone Nation, Pastor Harry Walther is our special guest, www.satansrapture.com. And Pastor Harry and I will return on the other side of this news break as we continue live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Pastor Harry and I return, and still to come on tonight's show, X-1 and Michael Horn. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Pastor Harry's our special guest, www.satansrapture.com. Pastor, what other kind of coding have you found in the Bible that is targeted for the not too distant future?
Well, now we're past. We just passed that July 30th, 2009 Obama code warning. I just wanted to say that on the backdrop of that, with this serious accident where Obama was supposed to fall and break his arm and his leg or both legs. The backdrop of that, just a month before, Obama sent Hillary Clinton to Israel to tell them that the roadmap, the peace treaty they signed with President Bush and Fatah was null and void, and demanded they stopped all settlement building, even every home, everything. And Netanyahu at the time said no, he defied Obama, and then Hillary Clinton fell and broke her elbow. And about a week later, Obama's candidate, for Supreme Court, Sotomayor, who is part of his plan to ban guns in the United States, she fell and broke her ankle. And then about 2 weeks later, Obama met with the Pope. And they were having this, quote, secret meeting. And after the meeting, the Pope announced that we need a one-world government. And then he fell and broke his wrist. So in the backdrop of broken elbow, broken wrist, broken ankle, I think that code really stuck out in Obama's mind, and that's I think he would have been very foolish to have attempted the Bible code. If I was him, I wouldn't have got on a plane that day. When people say, well, the cat code didn't come true, obviously he deliberately didn't fly that day. So that's where sometimes I said people don't believe in, tell you not believe in the Bible code because when the code's used to prevent an attack or avert something, people say it didn't happen. That's the point. It didn't happen. That it was averted. But anyhow, the Bible code, I've been studying this and saying this for a long time, to 5770, the Bible code is encoded with Great War. And just today on the news, I just saw on the news 2 hours ago, three very frightening facts. One, Israel has been saying that they have until June 2010 to stop Iran's nuclear weapons program, or it's too late for them. And Iran could have a nuclear weapon within a year, and that's the latest Israel will wait. And Obama seems to have no plan to stop Iran, and he keeps thinking that this aggressive talking and engagement is going to stop them. So far, it's done absolutely nothing. It's emboldened them. And then tonight I saw on the news that there's 2 Russian attack submarines, nuclear submarines, right off the coast of the United States patrolling. They're 100 miles away from New York City, and they're patrolling right in the waters. And of course the government says, but there's nothing to be alarmed about. But it seems like Russia is getting ready for this great war that's going to start in the Mideast. And the other thing is Hezbollah, which is one of the great enemies of Israel, to the north of them in Lebanon. There was that great war in 2006 that was in the Bible code. Hezbollah now has at least 40,000 missiles and rockets. They were supposed to disarm, and with Iran and Syria, they just kept arming and arming and arming while the UN did absolutely nothing. And they're now threatening Israel. If there's any confrontation, they're going to launch their missiles, all their missiles at Tel Aviv, the capital, their population center. So you could see the stage is being set for this great war in the Mideast, and the Bible code says it will start in the year 5770, which it starts at September 19th of this year.
How do you see the second coming of Christ happening, Pastor?
Well, the Bible says that Jesus, Jesus returns at the end of a 7-year period called the Great Tribulation of the Apocalypse. And Jesus returns to Jerusalem to fight this great battle against the Antichrist and his armies. So according to the Bible and the Bible code, first will come the Antichrist. When the world plunges into total war and chaos and social and economic collapse, that's when the Antichrist will come on the world scene with his plan for world peace. The Bible also tells us, and the Bible code reinforces this, that right before he comes will be this fantastic event. It's called the first of 2 rapture events. The smaller event happens when, say, 1 million people that truly follow Jesus will be raptured or teleported or vanished. They'll literally physically vanish from earth. And the Bible says they'll be transported to heaven. And then the Antichrist will come. Now, the Bible code's very clear. The Antichrist will come to earth in some type of spaceship. It says a UFO arrival. He's not going to come on the world scene as a politician, or he's not Obama. He's not a politician in a 3-piece suit, but he comes as a religious figure, as a savior of all religions, faiths, and creeds. And the Bible code warns us he's going to come, in a UFO arrival. He's going to come in some type of spacecraft. It doesn't mean it was built, in another galaxy. It could be built right here. But the point, he is going to have some type of UFO arrival on Earth. And he's going to present this plan to the United Nations, for world peace, a one-world government, just as the Pope and Obama are calling for, through the United Nations. And what's interesting, I found another Bible code for the year 5770, And in that code, it says that Obama will be assassinated and that Hillary Clinton would become president, and she will welcome and accept the Antichrist. And again, it gives a date, 5770. So when we look at the Bible code and we look at world events and what's building this great war against Israel is building, the Bible code says 5770, maybe into 5771, 2010 or 2011 as the time when the apocalypse will begin. But it seems like the world and 10,000 writers are all focused on the Mayan calendar, in December 21st, 2012 AD. That may be an event. That could be a comet impact event, but the Bible code's warning us that before that date, all hell is going to break loose on this planet. And we can just by watching the news and even the marquees that go across the news screen, we can see a great war is building in the Mideast, and that's what the Bible code's warning us of.
So what does the Bible code say that we should do about this war? Should it, does it say that the West will be victorious or the East will be victorious?
Well, what will happen, and when this war starts, it'll predominantly be against Israel. But when Israel hits Iran, not only Hezbollah and Hamas will attack Israel, they will literally rain 40,000 missiles down upon Israel, but that Israel will hit back in such a powerful way. It's that Damascus, Syria will be nuked, that Syria will get involved in this. And this isn't just in the Bible code. In 4 Old Testament prophecies going back 3,000 years, the Bible, not the Bible code, the Old Testament text actually names Damascus, Syria, as a city that will be destroyed from fire from heaven. It says in 1 hour it will cease to be a city, because in this conflict coming, Israel will nuke Damascus, Syria, and but the war will really escalate from the Mideast outward. But the problem is when Israel hits Iran, every terrorist group around the world, it's assigned to them to attack, and the Bible code and the Bible really says that the Hamas terrorists will detonate the Dome of the Rock Mosque in Israel. It's in Jerusalem. They'll blow that mosque up and blame it on Israel, and that's going to trigger a global holy war, jihad. And every terrorist or domestic terrorists, Muslim turned terrorists will join in this jihad. And it'll just be violence rip across the United States, parts of Canada, and of course through Europe. So there's going to be like just total holy war. Wow. And then that'll collapse the economies, and that'll trigger this total chaotic world situation of total chaos. And then in that backdrop is when this rapture event's supposed to happen, and that's when the Antichrist will come to bring world peace. Sometime in this scenario is when the Bible code says Obama will be killed and Hillary Clinton will somehow come to power. If it's a shadow government, if it's a FEMA government in place, then anyone could take over. When our government's now under martial law, the United States, and it's run by the shadow FEMA government, Obama could be taken out by anyone, a military coup, anything, and Hillary Clinton could be just installed. That's what the Bible code seems to tell us.
Sounds like something that we would have heard during the assassination coverage of President John F. Kennedy.
Exactly, because if you notice something, history seems to repeat itself.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
and we never learn from history. And when I look back in 1939 with Hitler, he was building this massive war machine. He started persecuting Jews. He started passing laws that Jews can't own property. Jews can't marry any German citizens. They started these laws and this war machine, and Europe kept saying, Hitler's just bluffing. He's not going to go to war. He kept talking extermination of Jews, the final solution, and Europe kept saying, Hitler would never do that. He's just bluffing. He's just being a loudmouth, and he did every horrible thing he said. And we see the same thing today with Iran. We see Iran sponsoring terrorism against Israel and around the world. We see Iran building a nuclear missile weapon. They said they're going to destroy Israel. And Europe and Obama just sit there and they just say, it's never going to happen. They're not really a threat.
But is it up to the United States to go in and take out the nuclear facilities in Iraq and in Iran?
Well, put put it this way. If what's happening now is the opposite, Obama is coming against Israel. He demanded that Israel would stop all settlement building in East Jerusalem. He forced Israel to stop building 900 apartments. He forced them to stop building a hotel because he wants to give all that land to the terrorists in his two-state solution. And he even told Hamas and Fatah they don't have to denounce terrorism. They can still say that Israel doesn't have a right to exist, and they can be destroyed. And Israel has to give the peace to people that wanted the land, and an army to people that want to destroy them. So Israel said so far they're not going along with this. But so instead of Obama stopping Iran, he's coming against Israel. If Obama would have a different foreign policy, if he would get tough with Iran, and Iran knew that if they didn't stop their program, he and Israel would hit them, then Iran might stop. Because the greatest threat to our world today is that Iran will develop nuclear weapons.
I think we should keep our eyes on Korea before we keep our eyes on Iran, but that's just my personal opinion.
Well, the greatest threat from North Korea is that they'll give their nuclear technology to Iran and other terrorist groups. I mean, North Korea really doesn't want to. They don't really want to they want to be a nuclear arms dealer, because you could see today when Bill Clinton went over there and he got 2 journalists released.
Yeah.
So they're not the greatest threat to them is they will give Iran nuclear weapons. They'll give just like last year, the whole world, unknown to the world, North Korea was helping Syria build a nuclear reactor, and Israel blew it up. And like I said, that this war coming could have been averted if Obama would have got really tough with Iran and threatened the use of military force. Because the problem is Israel, the most Israel can do is take out and cripple Iran's nuclear program. They don't have the firepower to take out, their military, to take out all their missile sites. Last week, Iran threatened Israel that if Israel attacks them, they will launch all their medium-range missiles at Israel's nuclear power plant in Tel Aviv and black out their entire nation. And possibly spread radiation. So by Obama coming against Israel, by Obama not backing down from Iran and allowing them this time, Obama's guaranteed that this war is going to happen. Whether he was told to do this or whether he's chose to do this, he guaranteed that nothing will stop this war.
I don't know. I don't know. It seems that promises made during the election are starting to waver. Pastor, stand by. You and I have to take a commercial break. Pastor Harry Walther is our special guest, www.satansrapture.com. This is the X-Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, and that's 7 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. Pacific. Right here on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studio in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Still to come on tonight's show, X-1, and an interview with Michael Horn. The X-Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, will return on the other side of this commercial break with the news. Nope, there's no news here. It's just the commercial break. Don't go away, X-Zone Nation. We'll be right back.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
19 Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant, check. Officers on the scene.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawson, host of Paranormal Stakeout. With over 36 years in law enforcement, I have learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, how we gather the evidence, preserve that evidence, and present it to a jury of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Join me, Larry Lawson, every week on Paranormal Stakeout when, along with my guests, we'll take a journey to prove with indisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Go to xzbn.net for the broadcast schedule and check me out at paranormalstakeout.com.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. X Zone Nation, if you would like to nominate someone to be placed into the X Zone Order of X Zone Crusaders, that's at www.xzoneorderofxzonecrusaders.com. Send an email to xzone@talkstarradio.com naming who your nominee is and why they should be entered into the order. We'll put up a poll, ask the X Zone Nation if we should or we shouldn't, and leave it up to them, as well as the members of our 2 companies, the people at Talkstar Radio Network and everyone here at Relmar. Pastor Harry is our special guest. www.satansrapture.com. So, Pastor, in a nutshell, what does the next year look like?
If what's in the code comes true, hell on earth. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like things we read about in the Bible of the apocalypse, horrible things like Jesus talked about. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there'll be earthquakes and plagues in many places. I think we could be looking at the worst case scenario. And on 9909, I picked that date because a lot of people think something's going to happen on that date. And 9909 is 6606 in reverse. I like to come on your show because I'm finishing 2 Bible codes about what will happen, and I think you're probably about the only show that would have the courage to have me come on, but there seems to be some really wicked, horrible things to happen this fall.
Pastor, you get that stuff done and we'll bring you back on.
Okay, I really appreciate you talking about this, Rob, because most stations, they just run from this. They just don't want to face what could happen. And I think, people should know what could happen. And I think, especially in America, people should prepare for the worst as far as swine flu.
Yeah.
I'll make it every attempt. If I can get out of this country, I will. I do not want to be here for what could happen.
Pastor, I want to thank you very much for joining us again tonight. Take care of yourself, good sir. And I look forward to the next time when you and I meet here in the X Zone.
9909.
You've got it, Pastor. Good night, sir. Pastor Harry Walther, www.satansrapture.com. That's www.satansrapture.com. When I come back from the news at the top of the hour at 6.5 minutes past, X-1 after all, this is Tuesday night, and every Tuesday night here on the X Zone radio show until we go through the entire library of X-1. We're going to be playing X-1 in either the 3rd or the 4th hour. So tonight it's in the 3rd hour. X-1 is up next, X Zone Nation. 1-877-528-8255 is our toll-free number. And during the playing of X-1, if you'd like to send me an MSN message, talkstarradio@hotmail.com. And don't forget, if you'd like to nominate someone for the X-Zone Order of X-Zone Crusaders, these are people who go out of their way to make this a better world. Send me their name, and we'll put up a poll, and we'll let the X-Zone Nation decide whether the person should be entered into the X-Zone Order of X-Zone Crusaders or not. I'll be back on the other side of this news break